Today, I will be talking about a verse from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And this verse talks about people's mistakes and how you yourself are just like them. And you need to understand this when you yourself make a mistake and when others make mistakes. So here's the verse. You've made enough mistakes yourself. You're just like them. Even if they're some you avoided, you have the potential. Even if cowardice has kept you from them, or fear of what people would say, or some equally bad reason. So I'm going to go through this kind of sentence by sentence, point by point, and talk about it. So first we have, you've made enough mistakes. You've made enough mistakes. How powerful is that? You yourself, me, I, have made so many mistakes. And for me to get mad at someone else who makes a mistake, how hypocritical is that? You know, at a different time, on a different day, I could be in their shoes, making the same exact mistake. And you need to realize this when people make mistakes. You know, you've been there, or you're gonna be there, or you very well could be there one day. And how would you want people to treat you if you made that same mistake? Would you want them to scream at you, tell you how stupid you are, how bad you are, how dumb? Or would you want constructive criticism, a helping hand, not to be pointed at and laughed at? Remember this. You've made enough mistakes. You've probably made the same mistake that you're about to criticize someone else for making. So be understanding. Be forgiving. You're just like them. That kind of goes back to what I was just saying. But you're just like the person who made a mistake. You yourself have made that mistake, or have been tempted with that mistake. And if you tempted it, we'll get to that. I'll continue reading. Even if there some you avoided, you have the potential. That's what I'm saying. Just because you've avoided that mistake, think about how close you've been in the past to giving in to whatever it may be. Maybe a second away, or a word away, or just so close to making that same mistake. But they made it. So remember how close once upon a time you were to making that mistake. And forgive them. Understand that you've been tempted in the same ways they have. Even if cowardice has kept you from them, or fear of what people would say, or some equally bad reason. And think about all the mistakes that you haven't given into, that you've only not given into because of cowardice, fear of what people would say, or some equally bad reason. Those are bad reasons not to make a mistake. Because of a fear, because of being a coward. Are you going to really fault that person for not caring what other people say or think? If you know the right thing to do, instruct him. But don't instruct him by showing your own self-control and praising yourself and showing off all your good deeds. Instruct him genuinely and kindly, and as another human being trying to help another human being be good, so that the whole human race can benefit. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone. And the more people can be better forgivers of faults, I believe the better this world will be, and the more people will make mistakes and be open to criticism. So many people make a mistake and shut down their doors because they're so stuck in their ways, and they don't even want to admit they made a mistake because of the image that gives other people. You know, whether that be pride that's stopping them, or self-image, which I guess is pride. It's mostly pride. Pride is stopping you from unlocking your full potential. I forget which person says this, but I've heard two different things like this. One was a philosopher and one's in the Bible. And I think the verse in the Bible goes something like this: if you think you know something, you don't know it as you ought to know it. And the philosopher version is, you cannot know that which you think you already know. So don't shut down your doors. Be open to criticism, because if you think you know something, you don't know it as you ought to know it. And if you think you know it, you can't learn any more. If you think you know everything about math, then you were shut down to know anything else. If you think you know everything about being kind and being compassionate, you won't get better at being kind and compassionate. And if you think you know everything, you won't learn any more. And the goal is to be a lifelong learner, to never stop learning, to never stop improving. This is the goal, I believe, of every human, and it should be of every human, because you can always learn. There's always more to understand, and even if you do know it as you ought to know it, if you think you know it as you ought to know it, you don't. So just don't close those doors. Be a better forgiver of faults, and understand if you make a mistake, other people have made that mistake. And if you see someone making that mistake, if you see someone making a mistake, understand that you've also made that mistake, or you've been close to making that mistake. And at bare minimum, you've been tempted in making that mistake. And the only difference between you and them is that you avoided it and they didn't. And sometimes you're going to realize that the only reason you avoided it was because you were a coward and you were fearful, and they weren't. So you can't hold that against them.